Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Apparently, Shannon Briggs crashed a David Haye press conference, called out David Haye, said, "Hey, David, when are you going to fight me?" etc. Now, Shannon used to go after guys with titles, right? He, was stalking Vladimir Klitschko for years. Now Shannon seems to realize that he needs to go after guys with box office, right? So, Vladimir Klitschko out, Tyson Fury in. I don't think Shannon Briggs wants to deal with Tyson Fury, right? Shannon understands that guys like Anthony Joshua have full dance cards. If Joshua beats Charles Martin, he's supposed to fight the winner of Carlos Takam against Joseph Parker. Kind of hard in that setting when you're dealing with unbeaten fighters. And understand, Charles Martin unbeaten, Anthony Joshua unbeaten, Joseph Parker unbeaten, right? I don't think Briggs wants any part of Carlos Takam. Well, suffice it to say, Briggs understands that he doesn't have the moral superiority to step into a press conference against those guys and say, "Hey, Joshua, if you take care of Martin, why would you fight Joseph Parker, a young unbeaten lion? Why not fight me?" Right? A guy who was fighting in the 1990s. So instead, Shannon Briggs is now stalking box office guys like David Haye, who himself is trying to put himself in a position to challenge the Anthony Joshuas, Joseph Parkers, Deontay Wilders of the world. Right? Okay, fair enough, whatever. Let's play along with this one. Right? Just understand, Haye against Briggs would be a fascinating fight because Briggs knows his way around the pocket. What I want people to do is to go back. You're going to have to go back several years for this and look at Briggs's fight against Lennox Lewis. Now, I know that fight ended badly for Briggs, right? Because, well, he was in against a great fighter who makes adjustments. But what I want people to look at is early in that fight, from the pocket, Shannon Briggs is outboxing Lennox Lewis, right? Briggs has that in him. If you're in the pocket with him, Briggs is a chess player. Briggs actually has skills. He's not a brute force, brute strength guy. He's actually a guy who is thinking things through, right? Who is able to literally trade shots with you and can defend himself up close. The reason why I believe he loses badly to David Haye is because David Haye operates outside of the pocket. In other words, these guys, it'd be a fascinating fight because Briggs would be trying to hunt down an ambush fighter. He'd be walking into a David Haye ambush, right? Haye would be outside the pocket, would pick his spots, would circle Briggs, then would jump in the pocket with power shots. Now, Briggs sustained a severe beating from Vitaly Klitschko, right? Did not go down. I remember the fight well because I lost money on that fight. I actually picked Vitaly by KO, and as I was looking at the later rounds of that fight, I was wondering what's keeping Briggs up, right? Briggs has the heart of a lion, no question about it. But I would expect him to get stopped by David Haye. And the reason is because whereas Vitaly beat the daylights out of you with a sustained attack, right? Look at Chris Arreola at the end of that fight against Vitaly Klitschko, right? Whereas Vitaly comes in and is kind of like a machine gun approach, right? He's battering you and, you throw at him, he's leaning, he comes back, he's battering you. With David Haye, it's more of an atomic bomb. It's not a machine gun approach, right? It's a shotgun approach. He's across the ring. Then he comes in, boom, right? The big punch, Not a series of hard shots. No, David Haye comes in with the big punch. It's kind of like a Deontay Wilder approach, right? Where you're fine, everything's good. Wilder comes in with the big punch. If you survive the big punch, you're a shell of yourself. You're hanging on, you're hoping, you're, wondering how much time's left in the round. What you're not doing is continuing to fight back. You're trying to survive at that stage, right? I think David Haye is too sudden for Shannon Briggs. Far too sudden, right? I think Shannon wouldn't know how to find David Haye in the ring. One of the secrets to David Haye, besides him being a much better puncher than advertised, one of the secrets with the Haymaker is that when he is cornered, when someone talented like Vladimir Klitschko starts throwing punches at him, you'll notice that Haye, who's a slugger, is coordinated and can put his head on a swivel, right? David Haye, when need be, actually can hide his upper body. He's actually an athlete. Now, that doesn't mean he has stamina. I thought he was tired against Derek Chisora, right? I think both of these guys would have a hard time fighting these days a sustained 12 rounds, right? I know David Haye went 12 with Vladimir Klitschko. Hey, that was before a few restaurant visits. That was before several months out of the ring. That was before 2 cancellations. Not 1, but 2 cancellations of his fight against Tyson Fury. That was before, when he was hungrier. Right? This is a David Haye victory lap now after he was undisputed the unified cruiserweight champion and after he had a share of the heavyweight belt. Right? I'm just telling you that guys like David Haye, who enjoy good restaurants, who had time away from the ring, who talked about retiring before, who talked about how he didn't want to spend his life getting hit in the head. I'm just telling you, guys like that might not have the hunger they had when they were on the way up trying to make their mark. So I view this fight, if it ever happens, Briggs against David Haye, as a stamina challenged fight for both fighters, right? I'm guessing the contract would say 10 rounds because I don't think either of these guys wants to deal with an 11th or a 12th round, right? I'm just saying that Shannon Briggs is too reliant on an in-the-pocket game to keep up with David Haye, who's going to, make it a full court game, who's going to be a few feet away from Shannon Briggs, a few feet further away than Shannon would like, and who's going to be throwing big-time accurate nuclear weaponry, right, from the zip code next door, right? So I would take David Haye in that fight. I would expect David Haye to win by KO. Haye's younger, he's fresher, he's the better athlete. In my opinion, he throws the harder punches. He operates better from outside the pocket. Anyway, that's how I see that fight. Let me hear from you. Let me say this too. The question on David Haye, for me personally, is simply whether he's still David Haye, right? Because eventually Father Time's going to beat all of us. Now, if David Haye is still David Haye, I think he beats Anthony Joshua, right? Because Joshua won't be able to deal with Haye's long-range power, right? Joshua doesn't move that well in the ring. He's not that blessed with foot speed. He's more of a stationary, upright fighter, right? David Haye's from a different era where, you had to move a little bit more. David Haye would be able to move around the ring. I'm just saying, as hard as Anthony Joshua punches, in my opinion, David Haye can match him in punching power, right? David Haye, Charles Martin, same thing. Martin a little bit upright, doesn't move as well as David Haye. Haye would be able to stay outside and has more ring coverage, the ability to throw the punch from here to way out there. than Charles Martin. So I know we look at an older fighter like David Haye coming back to the sport. I'm telling you, the reason David Haye is coming back to the sport is because he realizes some of these unbeaten guys in title fights right now would be vulnerable to him. Right? He realizes literally he's one haymaker away from the heavyweight title if he's the fighter he used to be. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Let me say this too, and it needs to be said. People don't talk about this enough. You know, age catches up with us at different rates for different weight classes. Right? Look around at the heavyweight division. I'm just telling you that, you know, whereas in lighter weights you say, oh, a guy's over 30, and you start to talk about him as if he has cancer. Right? As if he's lost a job, right? You know, you're hearing about a guy, you say, wow, this guy has a bright future. You say, how old is he? You hear 31, and let's say the guy is a lightweight. A lot of people are going to say, oh, 31. Oh, wow. 31's a young pup at heavyweight. 34, you're in your prime at heavyweight, right? Vladimir Klitschko's now 40, folks. Right? So don't be too thrown by the age. Right? Don't be too thrown by David Haye's age. If he's still David Haye, he's viable at heavyweight, at the upper rungs of heavyweight today. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for stopping by.